Alright, welcome back to the Fantasy Football Hour edition of the Chris Leslie Show. I'm Chris Leslie. Oh wow, that light makes it look like there's an illusion as if it's sunny. So, when I woke up yesterday morning, I had three pressing concerns on my mind, other than the fact that I just lost and I was now 1-4. The first being, I need a kicker, I need a defense, and I need a skill position player. Because, as I mentioned earlier before we went to break, it's bye week time. Okay, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So, if you have any players that are, say, in the AFC West, unless they play for the Oakland Raiders, you're in the same predicament. Okay, on my roster, for example, we have Dwayne Bowe, my top receiver. Also, Willis McGahee, one of my top running backs. And, what's the other guy's name? Nick Novak, my new hero kicker, who had 22 points yesterday. All three of those guys have bye weeks, okay? So, if you just want to take a look at what that means to my roster, okay, Dwayne Bowe, there's 24 points. Nick Novak, there's 19 points. And Willis McGahee, that is how many points? 14. So 14 plus 19 is 30. Wait a minute. Shit, I am bad at math. 33. 33 points. So 19 and 14 is 33. Plus 24. 43, 53, plus 4. There, okay, that's 57 points between those three players alone that I will not have access to. So that is very problematic, and I'm in a must-win situation, and I'm facing a guy who is also in a must-win situation, and who normally I would have a pretty decent chance to beat, but because of these really quirky bye weeks that just happen to all hit me at once, I'm having some difficult decisions to make and as to what to do to solve the problem. So, I mentioned kicker, defense, and a skill position player. I had originally the Philadelphia Eagles defense when I started this season. But any of you who either have them or have followed them, they have been absolute dog shit this year. Trust me. Don't even need to quote their numbers. So a few weeks back when I started getting apprehensive about Philadelphia, I picked up a team that I thought, a defense that I thought would be pretty good, and that was still maybe a little under the radar at the time, but wouldn't be for long, and that was the Dallas Cowboy defense. Now Dallas had a bye week last week, and they're just coming off their bye this week. But I was in a very tight spot because I needed to do something, and I picked up Jacksonville for this last week to cover Dallas's bye. Used them, they did okay, but I had to get rid of Dallas's defense this week, because they're playing the New England Patriots. And I'd like to upgrade from Jacksonville. So the problem is you can't have three defenses. At least in my league, you can't. So I had to get rid of Dallas's defense, and try to upgrade from Jacksonville's defense. Now, the reason why I had to get rid of Dallas's defense was because I mentioned that other need I needed to address, which was the skill position. Okay. Our league, your players are all locked up until after the Monday night game. The only players who are not locked up are those that had bye weeks, okay? So Dallas's defense wasn't locked. And Santana Moss slipped through waivers in our league and was available as a free agent today. But I was in this tight, precarious position that I had to release a player to get him in order to make room on the roster. And the only one I could do was either my, well, no, it was just simply the Dallas defense. And coincidentally, the Dallas defense is going up against the New England Patriots this week. So, if you have any idea what the New England Patriot offense has been doing, Dallas's defense probably wouldn't be the best play this week. So anyways, I dropped Dallas's defense and I picked up Santana Moss. Now, I think that is a pretty sneaky move and a good one because just looking at Santana Moss's numbers, he's a #1 wide receiver at Washington. Now, that being said, he's got just an absolute worthless reject at quarterback throwing the ball, Rex Grossman, but still, he's a #1 option. So, and his point totals, just looking at the first 4 weeks of the season, he had 7, 12, 7, and 9. So his 2 worst performances is 7. I could live with that next week. I mean, it gives me a chance, but he still had a 12 and a 9. It's pretty solid, and I'm willing to bet that had I not made that move, and had I tried to claim someone off of waivers, which they go through, I believe, Wednesday night, and and then Thursday morning you find out who you got. I don't think someone of that caliber would be available. So, we've talked about the defense. We've talked about the special team or the skill position. I addressed the skill position need. However, that still leaves an issue as far as the defense is concerned, and that is because the remaining defense that I have is the Jacksonville defense, and they play against Pittsburgh this week. So, with them playing against Pittsburgh, that's almost as bad as the New England Patriots. I mean, not quite, but pretty close. I mean, and it's at Pittsburgh, and look at the game that Ben Roethlisberger had. So, they're projected to get like 4 points. So this is kind of my plan. The only problem is I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, but I'm still going to try. And that is because if we look at our players that are available right now, at least in my league, and it'll give you a general idea too as far as your league's concerned. We look at that, and we're looking at like defenses now. And the defenses that are out there are pretty much, you know, I'll list them for you. Okay, so the #1 defense that's out there right now, which I would love to swoop up, is the Buffalo Bills. They have really been tearing it up. Like, they've had one really horrific game, week 2, when they had that shootout against the Oakland Raiders. But that was a game where both teams were back and forth, and it just went down to the wire, and they each scored over 30 points. That game they had -4, but with the exception of that game, first game, 13 points. Third game, 8 points. Fourth game, 7. And then yesterday, 12 points. And they got 3 interceptions, and they really gave Michael Vick problems yesterday. So I think that the Buffalo defense would be a great pickup this week for any of you who need a defense and may be in a position to get one. Chances are they might be available. I know that in our league, they're available on waivers because last week some numbskull decided it would be a good idea to drop the Buffalo defense in favor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneer defense, and well, that didn't work out so well. Tampa Bay got lit up by the San Francisco 49ers. So in our league, we have the Buffalo defense. Then we have the Cowboy defense, which, thanks to me dropping them. And then it's got the, well, let's do it based on projections. Okay, so you got, that doesn't look right. Wow. You have the Raiders defense, the Eagles defense, the Panthers, the Colts, the Browns, the Falcons, the Bills. The Bills are only projected to get 2 points. I find that hard to believe. They're going against the New York Giants. And the New York Giants weren't exactly that effective in stopping the Seattle Seahawks yesterday. The Seattle Seahawks, not a very good team. They went into New York, didn't even play their best football, and still got out of there with a win. Let's see. I just want to check something here. New York Giants defense. Huh, I don't even see them listed. Hold on. Somebody in my league must have them. Interesting. Well, that's not that important. But anyways, you have the Raiders, Eagles, Panthers, Colts, Browns, Falcons, Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Cowboys, Rams, Seahawks. But the Seahawks have a bye next week, so anybody who has players for Seattle, Arizona, Kansas City, Denver, San Diego, they all have bye weeks. So that implicates some players. The Chargers have a lot of good players. Phillip Rivers, Vincent Jackson, Ryan Matthews, and of course Nick Novak. The Denver Broncos, you know, Willis McGahee. Arizona Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald. Kansas City Chiefs, Dwayne Bowe. So yeah, there's some really good players that aren't gonna be have byes next week. So that's kind of like the defensive situation, the breakdown there. The way that our waiver system works is if whatever your waiver pick is, if you use your pick, that drops you to the end of the waiver line. A couple weeks ago, I had the #1 pick, and I wanted to save it for an emergency rainy day, but I was playing against a guy that I felt was going to try and grab Marcus Colston because they had just announced he was healthy and was going to start. So, as a defensive move, I had to pick up Marcus Colston with that pick, and as a result, I think my waiver order is like 9th. So, I don't think I'm going to be in a position to grab that defense because the guy I play doesn't have a defense right now. His defense is the Titans defense, and they have a bye as well. And Chris Johnson, Matt Hasselbeck, okay, there's some more guys that aren't going to be available, and that could be huge in some of the different fantasy leagues. So we've talked about the defense. Now, when we come back, I want to talk about the kicker because that's another issue that I'm going to have to address, and I'll kind of discuss that a little bit more when we come back. And then we'll talk about some possible ways of just addressing your bye weeks. There's a few different routes you can go, and it just depends on the situation you're in. All that and a few more things when we come back on the Chris Leslie Show, Fantasy Football Edition. We'll be right back.